The Lumnah family has become one of the most popular homestead guides on the internet. These guys show us in real detail what it means to live off the grid. The best part is they do it in a fun, engaging, family bonding way that is so inspiring. No wonder they've become a huge sensation on YouTube. As of today, their YouTube channel, which is about 10 years old, has over 200,000 subscribers. The channel is also worth a whopping $330,000. But what makes Lumnah Acres so interesting to watch? Could it be the sense of family and belonging that you get from watching them at work? Or the sense of freedom that comes from the kind of lives they live? Whatever it is very powerful, and it all began with a man named Al. Alcide Lumnah, early years. Alcide Lumnah was born on the 27th of February 1981 in Boston, Massachusetts. He attended the Norfolk County Agricultural High School in Walpole, Massachusetts, where he learned how to grow food and vegetables. Right from school, Al had a strong work ethic. His grandparents had a small bed and breakfast. One weekend, Al put on a clown costume and did some street advertising to bring some new business. Unfortunately, he wasn't very convincing. Al was only 17 when he was diagnosed with anxiety. Like most people, he was put on anxiety medication. Unfortunately, this only made the anxiety worse. Al experimented with different drugs, trying to cure his anxiety. All the medication he took proved ineffective at combating his anxiety, and so he turned to tobacco. Luckily for Al, the tobacco seemed to work. It reduced most of his anxiety, so much that it had become Al's chill pill. Unfortunately, it was now getting out of hand. Al got to a point where he was smoking a pack and a half of Marlboro cigarettes every day. At that rate, Al wasn't going to live very long. What made it worse was the fact that Al had just gotten married to the love of his life, Gina. Gina was a highly trained professional tutor who had bagged a master's degree and PhD in education. She also specialised in preparing students for IELTS. Al and Gina were expecting to start raising their children soon, and he made a promise to never let his kids see him smoke. This is because of the trauma he experienced as a result of seeing his own father smoke, and Al was hell-bent on starting a family. So he quit smoking for good. Unfortunately, the withdrawal symptoms were terrible. Al's anxiety now returned in full force. He was now having a mental breakdown. Al says that he remembers feeling like he had to go to the hospital. Al's boss came along and convinced Al to go and see a therapist. Al obeyed, and that brought him closer to solving his anxiety problem. Al, who was meeting the therapist for the first time, narrated his problem. The therapist then pointed him in the way of the over-the-counter anxiety medications. Al laughed off the idea. He told the therapist that the medications only seemed to make things worse. The therapist, taking pity on poor Al, advised him to go back to the cigarettes then, since the normal medication wasn't working for him. But Al had already made a promise, once he was willing to break. Especially as young Olivia was now on the way. Even though Al couldn't go back to cigarettes or anxiety medication, he was still hellbent on finding a cure for his anxiety problem. That's why Al continued to go back to the therapist. It was one of such meetings where the therapist introduced Al to some educational videos about anxiety. For someone with Al's condition, watching those videos must have been gruesome. However, they were more than worth it. Al discovers healthy eating. As Al watched the videos, he began to learn more about his condition. Even better, he began to understand the importance of the direct relationship between our food and our lifestyle and well-being. Al began to understand that what we ate had a direct effect on how we feel and live. All of this seemed to deepen Al's newfound interest in nutrition. Very soon, Al was spending hours combining through lots of material, trying to understand how our food was grown and the role the soil had to play in the quality of our food. Soon, Al's eyes were open to the dangers of commercial food, especially the chemical fertilizers and growth hormones that made people sick. From then on, Al made a choice. He decided that he was going to change his lifestyle. He was going to see if he could treat his anxiety with healthy food instead of medication. He began to pay more attention to the food he put in his mouth, checking to make sure that the food was free from any harmful chemicals. Very soon, Al was also interested in the soil used to grow his food. He also wanted to know how healthy the food he gave to his plants was. All of this crystallized a new lifestyle in Al. Al was now committed to modern homesteading. Al started with growing a few vegetables in his gardening. This was no sweat considering Al's agricultural backgrounds. Next, Al decided to add a few livestock. He started with 12 layers, 24 broilers, 2 turkeys and 2 pigs. As soon as Al got started with homesteading, he was all in. The pit bull bite, he calls it. His tendency to start a task and remain focused on it till he reaches completion. This tendency has helped turn Al into a 21st century lifestyle hero. Of course, the switch to homesteading life wasn't easy. It was filled with difficult challenges. One of the hardest times for Al came when he had started keeping livestock. Al almost took proper care of his animals, and so it was now time to harvest them. Al had never butchered an animal before, but this was part of the new homesteading life that Al had chosen to live. That didn't make the choice easy though. Al felt so uncomfortable that he had to wear gloves throughout. He also had to constantly talk to himself into slaughtering the animal. Till today, Al reports feeling uncomfortable when it comes time to harvesting his livestock. But he also takes joy in the fact that the animals served a good purpose by providing quality nutrition for his family. That's why Al treats all the animals on his homestead with respect. From their livestock like chickens, goats, pigs to their 2 pet dogs Pluto and Tanner, and their adorable little kitten, Figaro. Al has now become a modern day Batman whose light shows us how to live healthier, happier and more connected lives with our families and the whole world around us, especially with the food we eat. Al shows us how to build and live a healthy and happy life that is both free and sustainable. Al shows us the freedom of not having to pay for nutritious food and the joy and the sense of accomplishment that follows when you build your own house from scratch with your own hands, especially when you do it with family. Just like Al did in the summer of 2015, when he and his daughter Olivia built their cabin. By the way, Olivia is just an adorable little child who holds off her weight in Al's homestead. Olivia loves to read books and spend time with her adorable little pet dog Pluto, which she named after the Pluto character Mickey Mouse. The best part is Al carries his whole family along, and that makes us, the audience, feel like we can carry our family along. Both his beautiful wife Gina and his lovely daughter Olivia are all in an active part of the homesteading journey, and together they make the journey more fun and engaging. Furthermore, Al aims to carry the whole world along. That's why the entire channel is dedicated to not only teaching about modern homesteading, but the ups and the downs of independent life of a homesteader. Lumnah Acres has taken homesteading from a simple way of life to a fun, engaging way to take full charge of your life. One of the reasons why people have fallen in love with Lumnah Acres is because of the hard-working spirit that pervades the entire family. No wonder Lumnah Acres built everything on their homestead lives. From building a cabin out of the wood with his daughter Olivia to powering their home with solar electricity, or even harvesting their food crops with livestock. That's one of the reasons their channel has grown to over 200,000 subscribers since September 2012 when they first launched. Since then, they've become a symbol of hope to thousands of people across the world who want a different way of living, one that involves sharing quality food and quality time with your loved ones. That's why the channel's net worth has grown along with its subscribers. As of today, the channel is worth a little over $300,000 and is still growing, along with the entire Lumnah